We have Child Helpline Service, which is the only service in the country that provides psychological, emotional support to the children, and they have received more than 8,000 calls since its establishment. It also provides a referral. Most of the children that we've got to support who are suffered from the violence, we've got, fortunately, initially from the Child Helpline, which was very important. Then we also have a juvenile diversion center that provides the services for children that committed the crimes or like infringe the law for any articles in the criminal code or administrative code or civil code. They all being referred here, and instead of going to the jail, which was the case actually in the last, from the Soviet Union till the 10 years or even the 15 years of independence. But starting in 2008, we've achieved to decrease the number of children going to the jail.
And these are children under 18? Or?
Under 18, all of them, yeah. And like initially it was very hard, very difficult because the procedures were not there. The courts were very much reluctant not to send a child to jail who committed burglary or theft or even some minor violent crime like trying to steal money from somebody using a knife or other object. So all they consider as the violent crime. So they were sending all to the jail for 6-8 years imprisonment. 14 years old, 15 years old, 16 years old. So fortunately, in the last 7 years that we have been working, the number of crimes decreased significantly by 30-40% every year, different, but it's every 30-40%. Number of imprisoned children fell down from 60 when we started in 2007 and 8 to only 14-16 in the last several years. And most of these children are children that commit the crime outside of the Baku capital. The reason is because the center is in Baku capital. We cover whole Baku. We can't cover most of the regions, unfortunately. Although we do get children referred from the other regions where there is really nothing else they can do, we try to work with them here. But basically it covers Baku. That's why most of the children even decreased the number from 60 to 14, 16. Most of the children, those that committed the rape and murder, and 70-80% of those that did it outside of the Baku capital, so in the regions. So this showed the effect of the results of the center. And the third center that we have service here is the legal clinic. That's again the only children's legal aid service in the country that has been supported by UNICEF, but then UNICEF stopped the funding because they were not able to support it for that very long time. They've been supporting almost for 4 or 5 years. But starting 2013, Ministry of Social Protection kindly contributed support. So now we were able to keep the services in Baku capital, at least with the 3 lawyers. Although when we started, we only had 1 lawyer, then 2, now with 3 lawyers. And they have had more than, I believe, if my memory is correct, the last data was more than 1,700 cases, covering criminal cases, administrative, civil, parenting rights, property rights, that everything that concerns children. And they do it all free of charge. Okay, let me just call this stuff so all they can participate in. Okay.
We learned about them, and time to time she comes and gives training to them.
And Yusuf's one of our lawyers here that works for the legal team.
A lawyer and a photographer.
They're all doing the photography. So I just thought it was really important for you to just kind of quickly see some of the important areas before you have to sadly left off. Thank you for seeing that. Okay.
This is the room for psychologists that work individual cases, group cases with children. And this is the children's room. Where they do some teamwork, playing, drawings, some group work as well. And we started the small gym, just exercise program, because it's getting colder and we don't have premises here, so we have to use some schools, but not all the time. So we decided that we should do something in-house for that reason. And the director of the center is right there. And they have had more than 160 cases within just a year and a half.
Great.
So that's an important thing. I think that we will be able to do with that. And what else we want to do is, we're just talking to the minister this morning that we would like to have the copy that center in the second largest city, which is Gənclər. And this is the most important thing that we would like to do, because these two centers that you just saw, we will be building them in Gənclər for juvenile offenders, for legal aid, but we won't be having the center for victims of violence and crime. So their support will help us to build a second center, regional, big center covering 10 regions in Gənclər, but at the same time will help us to expand the services of this center throughout the Baku and Sungay, even two larger cities.
It's nice to be able to see what the investment brings to the community, and the Boeing company is very proud of its ability to help support activities like yours here in Baku. And with that, we would like to present you with a check for $41,000 to help with your programs, and a certificate to go with that.
Before you go, because I've been a part of this lot, I'm so proud of them. Can I just
Absolutely.
Yes, please.
Thank you. Thank you. I just want to put this up.
So
we have some cases that children, they were abused for years, and just now they are talking about it.
then they started talking about it.
Yes, it means that they were abused during all these years, but only now they said that they were abused.
So
They have means to call.
yeah, how do you? So that's why it comes back to the question: what's the percentage of the cases that actually becomes real cases that you take on? So you get a call. The floor is you get a call. So when do you start sending people down or picking up the children, or when do you? How do you? Do you know what I mean? How do you decide?
There are a number of criteria. The number one is the child should be willing to be part of the program, because if it's a call, and not all of the cases that we get are through the calls, most cases that we get through the calls to the child helpline, but sometimes it's the police that refers the children, or it's other social centers that refer, because this is the only center that provides the services for victims. There is none in the country anymore.
There isn't.
And
I think it's
state
also a
committee
state
for
of mind.
family, the government sense.
They don't want to recognize that this is a problem.
Oh yeah, they know that. The only problem is that initially, when we started the program for juvenile offenders, we didn't have a center for victims. Some of these children we had to accept to the juvenile offenders program. They were just coming in separate days, separate times, because we were not able to mix offenders and the victims.
Yeah, it's different.
But then it was very hard, and I said, no, I mean, it's very difficult, we can't wait. We asked the UNICEF, they say we don't have money. We asked the government, at least give us the premises, they were not able to. They didn't find the premises. So finally, I asked Azercell, I said, look, you gotta help us. I mean, I can't really wait. He said, we can't help you because it's a very sensitive issue. We will donate you some money. Just because we're big, we're strong, we're not afraid. We'll give you some money, and if you can show that this is really working, we can further support you. But they're supporting Child Helpline, so it was very hard for us to ask for more. But they kindly gave us 40% of what we needed, 60% we added ourselves, and we opened the center. We initially paid a lot of money to renting and etc. and we're still paying that, but at that time it was very hard, and they were trained, they were being trained. A lot of people were coming in and out to train the people, the staff. And initially, first year, they got, I think, maybe 10 or 15 cases the most.
It's 1,600 now.
Yeah, I think 39% or 40% are the children that sexual abuse.
Oh dear.
So this is a lot. And there are, like initially, in previous years, most of the children were not even coming front. They were not telling, their parents. They were trying to hide these things because they didn't like the children then being stigmatized.
Yes, a stigma.
And then you have to go to the court. The child should revisit and relive all these things once
over
again.
And over again.
When some people, when the investigators, interrogators, or in the court, the people will be interviewing, asking the questions, and etc.
Yeah.
Plus, the other thing is that they didn't have a place where they should go and visit, where the child can get help. So, for all these reasons, they were keeping that to themselves, and it was actually building up all these negative things and energy. But finally, when the helpline came up, they started to actually call and ask, but because we didn't have a center at that time, we had to accept them here. But once the center established, we started moving them to the specialized place, which is also hidden, which we're going to visit. I don't know if you haven't seen the center, right? No. It's not very far, but its location is hidden.
Safe house.
Safe house.
I
Yeah.
think, they call
Somehow
it.
our GPS, even though we put this address, took us there. So we decided to stop there to ask them to show us how to get there.
Good thing I did when I was there this morning.
It's a secret.
Actually, we were very surprised when they said that you find this center yourself.
Yeah.
It was
But because I've been there before, I told them.
yes,
see.
I know.
Our programmatic document says, and we were like decided on that if there is a young person, 19, 20 years old, and there is a case of significant, like serious abuse and violence, we would accept that child. I mean, the young person, because there is no other place anyway and we still consider up to 22, 23, we still consider them.
They stayed in that safe house, right?
Yeah, they stay. And currently we had 2 kids there, and then one went home after the rehab and an urgent kind of shelter for emergent violence case. The other child is still staying in there, so we can see the child too. But other children come there as on daycare. They come and go
And
home.
I think there's a young lady and a gentleman over there, a young couple.
Yes.
Well, the
Oh.
volunteers.
Volunteers, yeah, we have volunteers.
So they're there to supervise every day, right?
They have social worker, they have psychologist, they have the director of the center who also is social worker, but they also have educator, and they also have 2 people. The one is responsible, you probably saw that, the one is responsible for safety, like in the night, during the day, and the other one is the kitchen that we call, she
Takes
covers
care.
the kitchen,
Yeah.
food, because the children that stay in the shelter, they provide the food, we provide the food for
What do
them.
they do in daytime, during daytime over there? Are they busy doing studies or craftsmanship, or are they learning anything in that? I mean, I appreciate that you provide a place to sleep and they're staying there apparently 24 hours a day. But during the daytime, how do they spend
Activities.
their day? How do you spend their time?
Okay, usually first days they are just spending sleeping and eating.
Okay,
2-3 days. After that we plan the leisure time of the children that in our shelter, and it depends on his needs. Maybe he has some health problems, because we had a child, he had some problems, and he need to
Sport.
go
So-
for sports, and we have support from one sports center, and we talk to them exact times of the week, 3 times a week. We bring the child, put the child there, and bring her back to our shelter. Besides that, we had a child that he had never been at school, and he didn't he couldn't write his name even. And for this child, we taught our pedagogue. She taught her the letters at the beginning, and then when we bring him back to his family, we provide his back to the school, get his education.
Even so, they're in one place. The shelter is very emergent, so it's a temporary,
nurturing.
often very temporary.
Yeah.
They just try to provide a relief for the child that suffered the violence. Sometimes, often it's a sexual violence. So they do medical checkup.
I
They
was
do
just gonna go to
expertise.
that medical
they
checkup and all
absolutely.
that.
They do psychiatric assessment. They do psychological assessment. They do medical assessment. They do legal counseling and legal aid to the child, parents, or the guardians. And once all of this is sorted out and the child is fine and a couple days are gone and the child is recuperated sort of from all this trauma, then they are becoming normal members of the rehab center. But the rehab center has its own children, like not all, as I said, only 1 or 2 children monthly stay in the shelter because it's a very emergent case. And but most of the children that come to the center, so the children that come to the center, they have an individual care plans and ways within the child needs in the education, needs literacy, helping with the school homework, and etc. This is done by educator. And then the social work needs the family reconciliation, conflict in the family, domestic violence or sexual violence, etc. That needs to work with the family, parenting skills, or needs some work, etc.
I would say the Azeri culture is very similar to Asian culture. It's very standoffish. We're not like the Western world that we hug our kids. We do that now because we are the new generation, but the older generation or the people in the regions,
distance.
The distance is that I'm the parent. What I say is correct. Is that education of changing the minds of the parents is the key. Long-term sustainability.
Talking about having to
it's not sustaining just with the children, it's sustaining with the parents.
Dr. Neville, I have a couple of questions. How big is your staff right now?
So,
I assume they're all volunteers, or is there a...
we do have volunteers, but we have a paid workers.
Okay, how many paid and how many volunteers?
I would say, in the center or in the whole organization?
Well, in your organization.
In the organization, it's about 40 people, 25 paid workers, 15 permanent volunteers in all the centers, including the main headquarters. In the Center for Victims of Violence?
In our center we have less volunteers because our place location is confidential, and also we don't want many people saw the face of the children, their names, and we have also shelters. That's why we keep few volunteers.
Yeah, that's a very, very sensitive.
Right now you're being funded by volunteers, and also you said government also is volunteering?
Yes. Minister of Social Protection only. Right. It's a new decree by the President starting this June 2013 that they accepted the center being the only model and the only premises for the children that can meet the needs of the children, of this type of children. That's why they contributed the money so the center can live and work. Otherwise, we didn't have any money.
Does your organization get audited?
I mean, we got a little bit of money from TISA, a little money from IWC. Who else helped us? So absolutely, CDC.
Do you get audited what you accomplish, or do you provide a report in the year from the funds that was received and what we spent and the balances are? Is that report provided?
We have
the reason I'm asking is right now my company does not know too much about you.
Right.
I had to drag him in because he was here for a couple of days on meeting, so he's our sales vice president for this region here. And if I want to be able to support next year, I want to be able to see what your income is and what's the balance end of the year, and I want to know how
the money is spent.
Yeah, how it's spent, so I could justify maybe higher support following years, because I'm going to be for another 2 or 3 years here. But I want to be set it up so it'll be automatically, and in our company's mind there shouldn't be any questions where the money goes to.
No, thank you.
Because we're obligated to, because we live in this community, and because we're part of the Azerbaijan community, Baku community, and as a company-wise, we want to help as much as possible. And same thing with these ladies here, they're from the international women, and we want to be part of that to help. Every child we save is a plus for the country, and that's the reason that we want to support. Now, there's other organizations in here I don't even think about supporting at all, because I know where the fund's going to go to. So I want to avoid that, and I want to be able to, when they question me in the future, or when I'm asking for X number of funds following year, I want to be able to say, yes, this is the way that they receive this much money from different organizations. This is how they spent it, and this is what their progress is. And maybe, you never know, it could be higher the following year. So I will do, it depends on the report, and I will do my best to get it higher. Believe it or not, since I've been here the last 4.5 years, this organization is the highest one that could received it. The other ones, they receive about $10,000-$15,000, and Carol.
I can assure you that we've been working since '98 and legally since '99. Like '98 was just establishment and a lot of volunteering and etc. '99 it was a legal registration as the non-profit agency. So since '99 we have been working exclusively with the same organizations annually. So none of the organizations that we have worked, including the UNICEF. We even do monthly reports to the Minister of Social Protection. So you can imagine monthly. It's a nightmare, but it's...
If you just report to him that with the funds we received
it's
from
not
you,
only
we accomplished all
we're gonna let you know if there is an event in Ganja, if there is an opening of the dedicated child abuse line, if there is a training for the staff, or there is a training for parents, or there is a training for kids, or there is some expertise coming, or there is an audit, which we actually have been doing in multiple years. And that was once, it's a requirement of the EU that we got the funding before, it's a requirement of UNICEF that we did 2 times, it's a requirement of the Minister of Social Protection. So we do the audits as well, from the financial standpoint and from the narrative standpoint of whether we achieved what we really wanted to achieve with this money. Like meaning the outcomes, printed outcomes, or activities, or events, or buildings, or whatever, tangible and non-tangible. We do report them all, and we will be inviting you. We will be sending you the emails.
If I have the time, I will be glad to come.
But from our standpoint, it will be the information that you will know in advance that this is within the project that we're doing this. This is the information. If you would have a time, we will be glad if you can join us. The Minister of Social Protection, we were on TV program this morning together for about an hour, and we were talking about the violence against children and the centers that we have and whatever we're trying to do. So they are very much interested, because we're planning with UNICEF building 2 centers in what I was talking in Ganja, and either one in Lankaran or in heart of the country in Kürdemir or Ucar or Göç, in one of these regions. But there will be juvenile diversion center and legal clinic. We won't be having the victims protection center. So we will be building the victims protection center in Ganja. So they will be opening, and they know that. So they are very much supportive. They can't fund it for now, but hopefully in a year or in 2, as what they did was these centers, they started funding the centers only after 6 years, but they did finally. But it's now, from now on, it will be even easier. So hopefully, once the Ganja is established, or Kürdemir is established, or we have a child abuse line, so then we will be able to get funding from the government as well, because it's also the government's obligation to support. But at the same time, government understands that only with its money we can provide the services, because the government has to support the centers for disability, centers for mental, for refugees, for IDPs, the centers for talented children, that's a separate part, the centers for domestic violence, which is different law, and it's mostly women, etc. So one social ministry kinda has a very limited budget from the government, and it disburses the money. So they can't fund everything, and they know that. Plus, as you rightly mentioned, they were asking me when I told them that the Boeing, we submitted the proposal, we're waiting, they said, why do you think they're interested in that? I mean, they're not even here. I mean, it's not like Azercell or Baksel or I don't know, Sokar. I said, yeah. But this company works in the country. Azerbaijan works with the Boeing. Plus, the company has a legacy of corporate social responsibility.
Yeah.
All right, you're right. So it's a very new thing in the country, very new. And I remember I was telling Carol the other time that we were the first organization in the country that organized a big national conference on corporate social responsibility. It was like 6 years ago. It was a big conference with the government, ministry, all of the companies in Azerbaijan, UNICEF, UN agencies, UN representatives, a lot of people were there. And there was at that time a UN global call for corporate social responsibility, for business investment in the social problems solution. So that's what I was explaining and saying, oh yeah, I understand
We
that.
do this in every country.
Our headquarters in Seattle, when there's a big disaster somewhere in the world, we provide shelter, food, things like that, because when we deliver airplanes, most of the airplanes are full of, for example, the latest one was just, they had a, where was it, quite a good example in Africa. When Ethiopian Airlines picks up a new airplane, that airplane is full of stuff that's volunteers in our company, because we have close to 350,000 people working there. That airplane is full of medical, blankets, all kinds of things that they need, and it doesn't leave the factory empty. Okay, and we do that worldwide. And my wife and I, we've been here 4.5 years, and I know she's been working with the ladies here, and she used to do the same thing in Turkey. And in Turkey, I used to build computer labs for the kids in school, elementary schools. I mean, some of the stuff that we put in there, I didn't even have it in my office. Like the smart board, things like that.
Wow, that's
I mean, every year we did sing, and this is what I want to do here too, as long as I'm here.
Thank you very much.
The more I know about what your organization is, the better, hopefully, that I could support you.
Absolutely. No, thank you very much. And from our perspective, actually, we just didn't know what the expectations in terms of the publicity, in terms of the information about the Boeing's contribution. So we did put together the press release, and we already spread it out, just mentioning that there. And we have a newspaper journalist, the biggest newspapers in the country, zorakılıq, very famous, and everybody reads them. And the internet newspapers as well, which is now even...
If I could get some of that information, I could pass it on to our headquarters in Seattle, and I'd probably put Martin's picture in there, and because we have a daily paper comes out worldwide. And this way, his upper management also sees what we're doing something in this country.
And what I can also suggest, I mean, I was just talking on the phone with one of the journalists that unfortunately couldn't come because the kid got sick, but she asked me whether she can call and get whatever you just said about the planes with the because this is really very touching, very, and if you can just tell this examples of what Boeing does, because I mean my personal interest in that, I mean apart from what Boeing did for us today, apart from our hopefully very long-term partnership, but also my idea behind all of that is to show an example to local Azerbaijani companies what the corporate social responsibility means, and to push them for that. Because apart from couple concerts and bringing couple stars and singing, they really don't know what the CSR means. So if you can just tell, and it's a very, very famous newspapers, and we have, I mean, all journalists love us and we love them. And they help us to disseminate the very nice words and very important things. So I would ask her just to give you a call and to give the quotations with your name. So what the Boeing thinks of CSR and what you do when you deliver the plane and whatever it is, and why you are supporting the organizations, not exactly us only, but why Boeing is interested. Because as I said, the Minister of Social was just asking me why they're interested in that. So it's still a new culture.
We don't produce anything here. I mean,
absolutely.
My wife and I with the company.
So it's a new culture for them. Why the people are doing? I mean, so it could be interesting. Plus, these newspapers are read by a lot of marketing and PR directors of millions of companies in the country. So at least they can see that. I mean, look, Boeing is doing that.
Outside the United States for a long time, especially international women, have learned that their goal, a lot of their goals, and international companies are to help other countries that you're in, maybe just think outside the box of their culture and their norms, so that they can get new, fresh ideas from us, and because we're taking home wonderful, fresh cultural ideas back into the United States and trying to implement those good things here. We want to help you because we all have these in all of our states that we live in and countries that we live in, we have these abuse problems, we have these needs that you're trying to set up, and it is really difficult to open the eyes of your own culture sometimes.
They don't want to see
So, you know, as an international corporation, I'm sure Roy, that's one of their purposes, is to help break that, you know, mold so that you can have an opportunity to correct the problem.
Oh no, absolutely. I mean, it's been very hard, particularly with this with the Victims Protection Center. I remember my speech that I delivered at the IWC's event. I think that was a year and a half ago, or
Maybe
2 years ago. 2 years ago, when I told, and then the news, couple of journalists called me after that. And I told them the same, but that was, I think, closed meeting. So I told them that, look, being the Muslim country or having the Islam as the prevalent religion in the country doesn't mean that you are exempt from the violence and abuse. Absolutely not. And this is what we have been trying to explain to the government, that, look, I mean, you want it, you don't want it, doesn't matter. You have the cases. It's not 1, 2, 3.
You didn't invent it.
Yes, it's happening throughout the country as it happens in other countries. You can hide from it, otherwise it will be even further problems, even deeper problems. So finally we got the message through. Otherwise, I mean, as I say, none except Azercell say, look, it's a very sensitive, I don't want to deal with that, it's very difficult and dangerous, sorry. And even Azercell was very cautious. They said, look, I mean, we don't want to name just a little bit of funding for you. Try to do, if it works, then we will be supporting further. But then it didn't happen, unfortunately. But they're supporting the child helpline, so it's very hard to ask for a lot.
I mean, that's great in itself, because that's the main crux. It's not the main, it's a big crux of
it's a hub.
Then to get
it's kind of
the information disseminated out for you, isn't it?
When you can help, you know, help change these things, because there's so many wonderful people here, you know, that want to do these.
First, they need to realize that the problem is
so that
big.
it can get
it's
better.
Not like
you
one
have to
or
realize
two people the support will help. They need to see that, you know, it requires big corporates to help.
Yeah, you have to accept that there is a problem.
Yes.
And the other thing, of course, which we keep talking about, is the training.
Training.
You know, they need more staff, more social workers. Social workers are very limited here. They don't have a social worker system like we used to. So, you know, the social workers has to be, the lawyers have to be more, and then of course then the psychologists as well, to be working in the area.
Doctors,
you know, they're doing some just sort of kind of psychology in the university, but it's a very different experience working with the child and the issues.
Right.
I was going to say, Dr. Nabil is in the same position, I guess it was 10, 12 years ago, that an Egyptian oncologist was in Egypt when we were there. And he just wanted people to talk about breast cancer. And what happened was a lot of the expatriate women started with the pink had just come out. So we really started blanketing that and told the women that it was acceptable to, you know, and now people are getting help, you know. And it wasn't because it was expat women, but it was because it wasn't our culture, so it was a little bit easier for us to explain it to another Egyptian person on the street.
Absolutely.
You know? And now they're doing it for themselves.
Right. Yeah. No, a lot of things, I mean, the United States and other Western countries did the first. I mean, most of the things that the organization has today, our organization, is whatever I, myself, Elnara, Kamala, or other staff members went to the other countries and cultures and brought the best practices. I mean, the legal clinic, we never had it. We saw it somewhere, we adapted and built it here. Maybe with some differences, but it's almost the...
But you need some differences to
adapt it. The same with the Victims Protection
Yeah.
Center. In 2008, OSCE sent me to the Austria, to the big European Union and Council of Europe, Nümayəndələri States conference on the violence against children. And I had a speech there. I told them, look, I mean, we don't have any program and nothing at all. We want, but we don't have any experience. And there were a lot of very, very good. I mean, we had a representative from Minister of Internal Affairs of the Ireland. We have Iceland experience, wonderful, German, Belgium, United States, and we gathered all of that. I had a communication with the US Department of Education, Department of Health, I don't even remember, but he was a very, very smart guy who actually built a lot of the services in the United States, and we got all the paperwork from them. And within a couple of years, we started the trainings, conferences, and etc., building the staff capacity. In 2011, end of the 11, we opened the center. So that's what we learned. And the other good thing about the Boeing is that I worked for a year in Seattle.
Oh, yeah.
I just came back from Seattle just 4 months ago.
Okay.
And I worked in the University of Washington Medical Center in Harborview for a year.
I'm not from Seattle, but every year I have to go there. I'm from Long Beach, California.
This before
But
Mr. Vice President.
when I pick up a new airplane, I go over there. Every year I have to go there and make sure that I'm still alive.
So it's a good that, I mean, I worked there
You certainly did.
But they
Yeah.
Washington State University.
in the medical center in Harborview. So
Did
it's
you get a
good, I
chance
think-
to go to the factory?
Well, actually, I went to factory in 2003 when the U.S. Embassy sent me to United States as the part of the U.S. State Department's program on youth leadership in the United States. I visited all states, almost, I mean, all northern, eastern, northern, and the western states, including Seattle, and I saw the Boeing. Actually, I saw the last Concorde landing.
Oh, really?
Wow.
I saw it standing, just running in the Boeing's, I don't know what they call it, in the facility. When I was coming from the airport or going to the airport, I don't remember. But it was, I saw it there, the last Concorde, and it was fascinating. Project planning that we had like about 4 or 5 days ago was the UNICEF ministry and the Azerbaijani lawyers conference, and ASAN. You know the ASAN, the new thing, interesting thing that the government did. So they will be the partners as well in the project, providing the documentation help to children. If somebody doesn't have a documentation, they will be quickly doing that. So it's a like multi-party kind of project. So we plan that it should be operational by May. So it's not a lot of time, unfortunately, because what I explained to UNICEF and EU that we have to train, we have to select the people. And it's not just the people. Then we have to train them. Then they have to work here
To get experience.
as the shadowing. Yeah, they have to shadow these people. Yeah. And then as I was saying about the protection net, local authorities, we have to train the police, schools, Commission on Minors, courts, judges, prosecutors, social workers. Because if we opened the center, what happened here in 2007, we opened the center, nobody wanted to give us a child. Because they say, who you are? I mean, who are these people?
This is what we've been talking a lot about, the education, getting out there, isn't it? That you've got to really push on many layers and many levels. You know, the parental education, out to the communities, out to the police, etc. So that's a lot of work and a lot of time as well within its own, you know, its own phase, as well as thinking of the training up as well of the staff. So, you know, May is a bit sort of, feels a bit too presumptuous, a bit, you know, too much to get all that organised. I think it would take longer, but, you know, hey, inshallah.
Unfortunately, in 2008 and 9, I suggested the government to establish child protection department.
Yeah.
This is, I use the US and UK and Australian experience.
As an example, yeah.
That they have a child protection department either in the part of the social services or as in the UK is a Department of Education. So I suggested them, I wrote everything for them. Whole guidelines like this thick book.
Like theses.
Yeah, and that this is everything, including what the court should do, what the education should do.
What is the ideal
orders,
model?
yeah, protection orders, even temporary, long, I mean everything. And they established a child protection department.
They did?
They did. In 2010, Cabinet of Ministers. It's a big Prime Minister signed the order to establish a child protection department within the Ministry of Education.
Okay.
And they were supposed to do all of that you said. Meaning that identifying the children, referring the children, coordinating the care, making sure everybody talks.
You got an umbrella to protect.
Yeah, I didn't do that.
They don't do it. Do you
Because
know
they
it's
have
that
no
bit where-
idea. They have no idea what to do. They even didn't read what I wrote to them because and they asked me because I was pushing for the State Committee for Family, Women, Children issues. But because, I mean, I was asking them, begging them, look, this is your mandate. This is who you are. Do it. Oh no, we're too new and etc. And then the Minister of Education actually asked himself, please help us, we want to have it. I said, I don't care who would have it.
Somebody needs to have it.
Somebody have it, but
And act on it though, won't make it
so
work.
unfortunately, it's been like already third year.
Oh, it is running.
Yeah, it's running. They have a department head. They have 7 people staff, but they're not working.
But they're not working. Okay.
And they have a mandate which is bigger than the Ministry of Education because they're established by the Cabinet of Ministers.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, they don't work, and now the minister changed.
Yeah.
Now the people are changing. Everybody's getting new job offers, new people coming in. So it's a nightmare. But I think the good thing is having the decision-making body separated from the service provider. The NGOs, like we are, should be providing the services, but we should be getting the kind of supervision, quality control from the government and licensing.
Yeah.
That's the most, which they have failed so far to do.